So when you say that you're doing your bachelor's, then
Yes, ma'am.
normally here in Canada, what we ask is, what is your degree in? And that means
Okay.
the what is your bachelor's in?
Yes, yes, ma'am. I understand. It is in Bachelor's of Business Administration. So they call it
Okay,
BBA here.
right,
Yes, ma'am.
right, excellent. And how much longer do you have left?
Uh, Probably less than a year.
Oh, that's excellent. And what are you doing in your job?
So I got appointed as an executive assistant, and yep, so I've been on that position. But I do a lot of things, like they hired me for executive assistant, but I have to do, let's say, business operations as well as business development. So there's a lot of work together because the company is not so big. It's not a corporate.
Well, that's excellent for your CV. It's a great first job.
Yes. Mhm.
It's excellent. Very nice. And Assalamu alaikum, Muhammad Amir.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम कैसी हैं आप
How are you doing today?
गुड आई एम गुड हाउ आर
बिल्कुल
यू
ठीक, आप सुनाए?
जी अल्लाह का शुक्र है
And you're calling from I forget, you're in Canada somewhere, right?
या कैलगरी योर सिटी
Calgary,
या
my original city.
आई
Nice. And what do you do in Calgary?
एम वर्किंग एज एन IT guy like uh, I have been working with a non-profit organization as an IT manager.
That sounds amazing. Excellent. So I think we can begin. It's 2 minutes after the hour, and um, let's see, we might have somebody who might join us. Until then, we can actually start. So, Bismillah ar-Rahman Rahim. We're going to continue sort of with what we did last week, because I found that it was very helpful. I found that it was opening up more conversation from, or more, well, actually, you guys are you very actively participant in this group, but it was actually even bringing in some more participation. So I wanted to sort of do it like that, except I will try to use a little bit less Urdu this time, because I want you to sort of, I like the activity of giving you something in Urdu when you have to translate. It's a very real sort of a practical um, exercise to do. But I also want, at the same time, I also want you to think in English. So I give you something in English, and then you have to think of the phrasal verb. So what I will do here is I will give you the meaning of what I'm trying to get from you. And then here you will give me the phrasal verb. And we'll sort of do it like that. Do you think it's a good idea? Do you think that works?
Yes, ma'am.
So, and in between, if you have more questions about a specific vocabulary or word, or if it makes sense or not. And that's a big thing, because this week I had at least two of my students from work, and they said the same thing to me. They said it's so difficult for us to grasp the understanding of a phrasal verb. We don't, it doesn't make sense. And I think that's something I also read in our WhatsApp group, right? It just doesn't make sense. And that is a very frustrating part of a phrasal verb, because the more you try to make sense out of it, the lesser it makes sense. And then you feel, if it's not making sense, I'm not going to use it in my real life. I'm not going to use it in my spoken English. And then you feel a little bit discouraged to use that expression. And I think you can relate to that, right? I definitely can relate to it when I'm learning another language. And if it just doesn't resonate with me, I tend to avoid using it. So what we want to do is we want to try to make sense of it in a way that this is it, this is what this means. And instead of breaking it apart and trying to see why this verb and why this preposition, we don't. We just let it be. And we just say, this thing means this. and it might, I know it's not an easy thing to do. I don't think it's easy at all. So let's go into this. The first one I'm going to give you, the verb begins with back. You have to think of the preposition, and the meaning is when you stop demanding something, right? So when you are I don't want to use the phrasal verb, but when you demand less, if you're demanding something or if you're asking too much of something, and then you decide that you need to do this action, the phrasal verb, to be less demanding and to ask for less, to be less pushy. So what phrasal verb does that mean? What preposition are we going to add in here that would mean this? Any guesses?
It can't be back up, so
So you're saying it's back
might
up?
be something else. No, I'm not saying back up, ma'am. It can't be back up. Back
It
up
can't be
is
back up. No. What does back up mean?
um to, how to say this, to regain something in the sense.
Kind of have a plan B, right?
Yes.
Right. So like when you have a backup, it means like, for example, and even if you have to back your files up because you work in IT, you can imagine that, if you don't save your file, like the basic thing, right, then you're going to lose it. So you always want to back up your files or to always have a plan B, right? That's where plan B comes from backup. Okay, and backup physically means to just back up, like to back up your car, right? So that's also a physical one. So it's not up. Which other one could it be?
Back off.
So back off. What does back off mean? Back off is to tell someone to um to
Back
Uh,
off.
to back off, right? To tell someone to be less um present. Right? Like, back off, like give me some space. You can, like, it can be physical, like to back off, right? And it can also be abstract. So for example, right now we're not close to each other physically, but let's say if one person feels like you're too much in my face, then I could say, okay, back off for a bit, like, let me be more present, so it can be an abstract way. It can also be a physical way. So it's not back off. It's actually back down. So
Oh.
back down is what we say when we want to stop demanding something. So maybe from an offer, if somebody is doing an offer for something and they're um, negotiating, right? So I think if we're from Pakistan, India, so we're always it doesn't matter what we're purchasing or something, we're always negotiating and bargaining something. So sometimes we back down, right? And we meet in the middle, and sometimes we don't back down, right? Or I'm not backing down. That means I'm not going to stop my demand. I'm not going to uh, go easy. Is that good?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, then Tariq, could you make a sentence with back down for me, please?
Back down. I wanted to back down while I was, no, no. I wanted to back down while I was eating, but they keep eating more and more. Something like that, ma'am.
Thank you, Tariq. So now one thing that I want to do, okay, is where you are using your past tense over here. So then this also has to be in the past tense. So what's the past of keep?
Kept. Sure.
Right? So that's one thing. I wanted to back down while I was eating, but they kept putting more. So this wouldn't be because while you're eating and someone keeps serving you more, that's not really back down. the same concept, you can inverse because somebody else needs to back down, right? So my aunt kept insisting, or let's use back down, my aunt wouldn't back down and forced me to stay over for dinner, right? So she kept saying, stay, stay, stay. And you kept saying, no, no, no. And then she wouldn't back down, and she wouldn't give up on the demand. She was demanding you stay over for dinner, and she wouldn't back down. And so you stayed over for dinner. So it could be inverse, not you backing down, but the other person not backing down. Okay, let's go over to a different one. Okay, and Mohammed, I'm going to ask you to make a sentence for this eventually, but let's see this. This is, I think it's going to be an easy one, but let's see.
Easy
So
one.
this
Easy.
means, do you know this one?
Yes, but I'd like to try.
Bring up.
Say it again.
Bring up.
Bring up, exactly. Exactly. So bring up has two meanings. One is this one, to raise or take care, right? So Mohammed, could you please give me a sentence with bring up? In the past, I want you to make a past sentence with bring up.
He brought up his kids in a very in a very lavish environment, or
Why not? Excellent. He brought up his kids in a very lavish environment. Excellent. So this is bring up as to raise kids. We have another meaning of bring up. So we have another word that also means bring up. So what's the other meaning of bring up?
To come up with some.
Say it again.
To come up with something
sorry,
new.
some new
So
ideas.
give me a sentence.
If you have any idea, bring it up.
Not really, because let's say that I'm in a meeting, right? Or, we're having a discussion right now. And if I say, okay, so if you have any idea, bring it up. I'm not really, you can bring up an idea, but not with the same meaning as you're suggesting. Because I would say, let's come up with some ideas. And if you have an idea, bring it forth. Typing it correct. That's what you want to do. Like bring up your idea and actually bring forth your idea. So that's not the meaning of bring up. So we're going to cross that one out. So let's keep on guessing. What could be the meaning of other meaning of bring up? I think you're very close, but you're not really nailing it.
It means some raise some issues like
So give me a sentence.
okay.
No. When something is brought up, it's some idea, topic, or subject is I'll just put this, brought in a conversation unexpectedly. So when you mention or bring up something, it wasn't a part of the discussion, but you brought it up, right? So I could say, don't bring up that topic in front of him. The discussion would get too long. For example, like to bring up a topic or to bring up a discussion or koi baat, it always is unexpectedly, it's off the topic that you bring up. Does that make sense? It doesn't mean to create an idea. It doesn't mean to come up with an idea. That when we talk about what you guys were saying, it's come up with an idea to and then to bring forth is to present that idea. But to bring up is not really an idea. You don't really bring up an idea. So it's better always to bring up a topic or a subject or any discussion point in a conversation when the other person is not expecting it. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yes, I think it is something to do with something hidden idea or something.
For example, could you give me an example?
Uh, let's say we. No, my voice is repeating.
For me, it's good. I think it's maybe echoing for you, but I can hear you well.
Okay, let's say we were talking about national security, but he bring up something new.
Which is not on the topic, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So if you're talking about national security and he talks about I don't know, the foreign policy, then it's something that he brings up. It's not a new idea. It's not an idea. He's just bring. So what a common mistake would be is when you use it as bringing up an idea, like bringing up an idea, coming
Yes,
up
yes.
with an idea is to have a new idea. But to bring up something is we're talking about this, and then you bring this topic into it. It's not a new idea. It's not an idea actually at all. It's just something to complement or to discuss further or to discuss away from the topic already being discussed. Not necessarily new and not necessarily an idea. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes, ma'am. I got it. I made a mistake while making that, but it should be something sudden. I mean, it shouldn't be something which was going previously and then. Okay, understood.
Usually unexpected, exactly. So usually it's unexpected, and usually it's like, oh, like ye baat kahan se aa gayi? Like you just brought up something. You can also bring up something and then that it can create a new conversation, right? But it's not really. You can bring up a point, right? So let me bring up a new point, or he brought up a really good point, but it's not a new. It's not an idea that you're coming. It's not that flashlight or the light bulb moment, when you come up with something, right? So that's come up with is a new idea. Okay, what do we see when we rely on somebody?
Um, it should be something with back only, like
It's actually a different verb with on. To rely.
We put some confidence on something or on someone.
So confidence is a noun. So here we need a verb because this is a phrasal verb. So it's going to be a verb plus on. And when we rely on someone or something,
Yeah.
Anyone? Can you use rely on in a sentence?
Yeah, I think
Why?
so.
So both of you give me a sentence with rely on.
During my exams, I was relying on the notes of from my friend or something like that. On my friend's notes.
This is great. This is great. And Mohammed, what would you say?
I relied on the ideas uh, he presented in a meeting.
He presented at the meeting.
At the meeting.
At the meeting. Okay, great. So you know how to use rely on. Now the word that I'm going to give you, you both know it very well. It's count on.
Oh, yeah.
It's count on, right? So it also can mean to depend on. I heard something, but it cut off.
Yes, but I thought it also means trust on somebody, like count
No,
on. Okay.
no, not necessarily. Those are two things. If you count on someone, well, when you trust somebody, then you count on them, right? So what comes first, it really depends. But you can count on someone, you can trust them, but you don't trust on someone. You never trust on.
No,
Trust
I mean to say,
someone.
yeah. I was trying to give the meaning of count on to trust on.
I think the best one would be to depend
Depend.
or to rely, because um it can become a little bit philosophical, right? So for example, if you trust God, right, and then you count on God, in that case, absolutely, right? In that case, it's perfectly fine. But let's say that let's say you trust me that I'm teaching you correct English, right? So you trust me, but can you count on me? Maybe not. Maybe because I don't see you every day, I'm not really there in your at your university. I can't really, but can you count on me that if you ask me a question in the WhatsApp group, I will give you an answer for it? You can count on me. You can it's not trusting me on this. You can count on me. You can uh, I think the better word would be believe. So you can believe it. You can believe that it will happen. If that, it's a bit of a play with the word, but if that helps you remember count on, why not? Why not? As long as you know that count and trust and then believe or just they're all in the same umbrella, but they're not necessarily the same words, right? So, but I think you do understand. Uh,
Yes,
if you're counting on your friend's notes, then you understand what that means.
yeah, that.
I hope the notes help you.
Yeah.
It's always good to have a friend that we can count on his notes.
Yeah, we
Excellent.
have.
Okay. Um, okay, I'm going to give you a little bit difficult one because you're actually doing really good. And I have collected these that I found people having difficulty with. So you're actually, I'm going to give you one. Okay, the most versatile verb in English, well, one of the most versatile verbs in English is get. It's very versatile for English speaking people. For people who are learning the language, they actually find it a little bit difficult to get a hang of the verb, the get. So we're going to look at the verb get, okay? And there's so many phrasal verbs with get, and they really don't translate. They don't translate the way they mean as much as you would want them to. So the definition that I'm going to give you first, and we're going to go into it, is I'll give you a scenario. Okay, so the situation is I have to do something. It's my responsibility um, or duty, um, but I don't do it. Okay, so I have to do it. It's my responsibility. It's a duty. I have to do it, but I don't do it. Maybe because mostly I don't want to. Right. So today I just don't want to. I have to teach this workshop. I said I'm going to teach it. It's my responsibility to show up and to teach it. But today I don't feel like teaching it. I want to go for a walk. I want to sleep in extra. I don't do it. And I don't suffer any consequence. This is a whole scenario, and it's all highlighting, which I don't need it. It's all, this is my scenario, and my, to say all that in just a couple words, how would we say that? It's get. It's get, and we have two prepositions after, followed by two prepositions. And in those three words, it says all that. I have, it's my responsibility. I don't want to do it. I don't do it. And nothing goes wrong. I don't get in trouble. I don't suffer any consequences. No one has a problem. So what are the two prepositions that go with get for that?
Get rid of.
Get rid of, which is a great one, not the right one, but get rid of is
Means to put something away, to be done with.
To get, yeah, to what's the right word? To let go or to get rid, same thing, of something we no longer desire. That's a, not the best definition, not the dictionary definition, but it means to get rid of, right? So for example, that friend of yours who you're relying on to get the notes, um, now he wants to take money from you every time you take his notes. So you can get rid of that friend. You don't need that friend who has the money for the notes. So that's like this total, right? That's get rid of. But that's not about, I'm looking for something else. And you know what? I'm going to give you this because you did get one preposition right. It's off. One preposition is off. We still need one more preposition.
Get it off.
Again, sorry?
Get it off.
Get it off. No, because it is a pronoun. And
Yeah.
here we need a preposition.
Yeah.
And that, Mohammed, that you said is get it off. And this is the phrasal verb here is get off. The phrasal verb here is get off. And this means to remove, right? So abstractly, I could say, is something bothering you? Get it off your chest, right? Or if there's like an insect crawling on you, you want to remove it, right? You get it off your hand. That's something different. So what else could it be? One more try, guys. It's get out of. Oh.
How it could be so easy.
When you get, it's always like that. When you get out of something, it is, you have to do a responsibility or a duty, an obligation. You have to do it. You don't do it, usually because you don't want to do it. Okay, so it's not because this morning I got up and I was feeling sick and then I didn't do the workshop. That's not getting out of, because that's, I have a reason. I'm not feeling well and I tell you guys, I'm sorry guys, we're not doing a workshop today. I'm not well. That's different. I still want to be here. But if I don't want to be here, I want to go watch a movie instead of being here right now, and then I make an excuse, and then I don't suffer any consequences for it. I got out of it. So that is like, when you're invited to your aunt's house for dinner and you really don't want to go, but you also don't want to get in trouble. So what do you do to get out of it? So that is when we get out of something. So I gave you a lot of examples. So now I want each of you to give me a sentence using get out of. Because like I said, get is literally, I want to say the most, but one of the absolute most versatile. So can you give me an example?
This time I ain't going first.
Sorry?
I ain't going first this time.
You're not going first this time. Why not? You're always amazing. Go for it.
No, this seems a little
Don't
bit
back
tough
off.
to, to put it in the words. Okay.
Mohammed, do you have something in mind?
Not yet.
Not yet. Mohammed, let me help you. Okay. I want you to bring it to your mind. Think of something, maybe in the past or right now. It's a duty. You have to do it. It doesn't have to be a big duty. It doesn't have to be like paying your mortgage. It doesn't have to be like um, bringing food to the table. Something small, something little that you have to do. But a week ago you said, yes, I will do it. And now you're thinking, I really don't want to do this. हाँ
I
कर दी
have
थी, but
something.
now I really don't want to do it.
Yes, ma'am. I have something I would like to try.
Please.
I wanted to no. Okay, not wanted. I had to clean my house last week, but somehow I managed to
But somehow I managed to.
get out of it.
What did you do?
I didn't do that.
Yes. So maybe you can say, do you have siblings?
Yes, I have.
Are they your sister, your brother?
Yes, ma'am. One sister and one brother.
So I managed to get out of it by bribing my brother to do it because the thing still happened. So there's no consequence. The
Okay.
consequence would be if you had to clean it and nobody cleaned it, and now the house is a mess and it's dirty, and now everybody's really upset, right? But now, phew, nobody's upset. You had to clean the house. You didn't want to do it. You bribed your brother. He did it. Everyone's happy, and you didn't have to do it. So that would
Okay.
be an excellent example of this. I hope that's clear. That makes sense.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Totally makes sense.
Excellent. It's a great, great expression to use. Expressions with get make you sound more confident and make you sound better in English. Okay, I'm going to go to the next one, which is just as useful to have. Again, with get, okay? You do something you shouldn't have done, right? So it could be something, something that technically you should suffer consequences for. Type and talk. Right? So, like there should be consequences because of something that you did. Now, get out of is you didn't do what you had to do. But in this, you did something, but you shouldn't have done it. And there should be consequences for it, right? You should suffer consequences for, but you don't suffer any consequence. Right? So I don't know, like let that sink in. You do something wrong, something you shouldn't have done, and technically there should be consequences for it, but you don't suffer any consequences, and life goes on. And here again, we have two prepositions after.
Anybody?
Sorry?
No, I was asking anyone else.
You're hoping, right? You're trying to get out of it.
Yeah.
So go for it, Tariq.
Could you help me with the last one?
Last one? Okay,
Yes.
there you go.
Get down with. No.
Get down with. No. Get down with, I think, is a Backstreet Boys song, right?
Yes.
Get down. It's a good song, but no, not this one. Get away with. Get away with something. Now there was a really it wasn't a great show, but it was a popular show. How to Get Away with Murder. It was I think right before the pandemic. It was quite popular. Um, and the title says it all: How to Get Away with Murder, how to murder and not get in trouble for it. That's exactly what it means, right? To get away with something is to do something you're not supposed to do, and then you don't suffer any consequences for it. That's how you get away with something. So now, like always, I want you to show me your sentence.
I had to submit my weekly report, but somehow I managed to get away with again with it. Oh, we have to add something.
It's like great. How? So I would say somehow I managed to get away with, and here I would not say get away with it, but I would say get away with not submitting. Like, what did you get away with? Because um, you want to substitute it, right? Like, what is it? So you haven't really said what you did. So you want to mention um,
Not
what did you
submitting.
get away with?
Yes.
Exactly. So I got away with not submitting the report. Exactly. So whatever you did, you did. Point is, you didn't do it and nothing happened. No points were deducted. Your teacher is not upset at you. And it's just a win-win situation. Can you think of any other get phrasal verb?
I had to go for hiking, but
Again, sorry.
I had to go for hiking, but uh, but I got away as I was sick.
Ah, okay. So that's here. I had a plan to go hiking with my cousin,
Yep.
but I got away with what? I got away with not going because I was sick.
Okay.
Now, this tells me, okay, so this sentence grammatically, it's correct. It's fine, right? But the meaning is you never wanted to go with him.
Mm,
So if you didn't want to go with him, right, then it makes sense. But if you didn't go because you were sick, then you can't use it.
okay.
Does that make sense to you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you get away with doing something that is wrong. So being sick is not really wrong, right? Because when you get away with something, you do something you shouldn't have done. So this is really important. So you do something that you shouldn't have done. So actually, I'm going to put the name of the show, right? How to Get Away with Murder. I don't recommend the show. I didn't like it too much, but it's a great
This
one
should.
for teaching prison words. And How to Get Away with Murder. Like you murder someone and then you get away with it. Have you guys seen this show or heard of it?
No,
No.
ma'am, I feel this is illegal.
So it's about a law professor, and she's teaching her law students how to get away with murder. Right? Basically, that's the plot. It's not the story, but that's the basic plot. And so that's what it is. So murder, as everyone knows, is wrong. You shouldn't kill someone. But if you do, this is how you get away with it. So for this reason, I had a plan to go hiking with my cousin. I would say I got out of it because I made the plan. I should do it because that's the right thing to do. If you make a promise, you should stick with it. You really don't want to. And when you see over here, like mostly because you don't want to do something, right? This is more like get out of something because this implies that your desire is no longer there. And this get away with is more, it's not about desire, but it's more about you do something really wrong and then you don't suffer the
Responsibility.
consequences. Continue.
Responsibility in other words, ma'am. Get away with is something which comes with responsibility, and we could have suffered consequences for not doing it, but somehow like we don't suffer any consequences.
Get away with is not really about responsibility. Get away with is you do something wrong. So when you get away with something, right? So for example, let me give you an example, right? What did I do wrong?
Let's say
Um,
I had given the example before, which is not fulfilling my responsibility. Like I had to submit the weekly report, but I didn't. So that means I had to
yes,
fulfill my.
yes, your example is perfectly fine. Example is perfectly fine. I want to give another example of actually doing something. Like this one you didn't submit, and this one you didn't go hiking. Here I want to think of something that I did. Okay,
Like
so
cheated in exams or
something
something.
I did, yes, that was wrong, exactly, and no problem, right? So this is would be um my daughter got away with cheating on her history exam. True story, because no one found out. She only announced it later. So that would be it, right? So you got away with doing something wrong. You do something, it's just not the right thing to do. And you don't really get in trouble for it, right? So if you're driving and you're speeding and you don't get caught, well, you got away with it, right? You shouldn't have done it, but you got away with it. That one. So it's kind of interesting. It's actually, if you think about it, it's so simple, but it's not so simple because you really need to know that the underlying um, meaning of it. And but how easy can your speaking be if you're using those correctly, right? How simple your sentences can be and how fluent you can sound by using get out of or get away with correctly. Okay, excellent, Mohammed. Um,
Back.
can you tell me some other phrasal verbs with get?
Get down.
So get down to
Get down.
would be a good phrasal verb. Get down. And what does that mean? Give me a sentence.
Uh,
Get down, just letting you know. If you ever heard Backstreet Boys, um, That's their song, okay? And it basically means to dance. Get down, let's dance, right? So that's not really, it is a phrasal verb, but get down to is a phrasal verb that is actually something you can use every day. It's a very good phrasal verb. Can you make a sentence with this?
I got down yesterday because I was sick.
So this one, unfortunately, no. This one, I was down with a flu yesterday, so I didn't go to work. That's to be down. That's not get down. Very common mistake. Very, very common. So not the same as get down to. Is that clear, Mohammed?
Yep.
So now what does get down to mean? To start work on something seriously, like you put your arms up, you put your sleeves up, let's get down to it.
Oh,
Right? Like
yeah.
no joking around. Let's do this. Let's work seriously and let's get down to it. Okay. So I was late in submitting my reports. So I will just get down to it tonight and finish it.
Yeah.
Get down to it. Like end that functional, like to get down to it, like just to take it seriously and work and finish it. So great, but not exactly the same meaning as we thought it was. How about this one? Get around to. Super, super common, very useful to use, and not as used by second language people, unfortunately. Did you give me an example or a sentence?
When you encourage someone to do some job, to do something, or
Okay, get around to.
Might
Not
be
necessarily.
follow something.
Again, sorry?
To follow, get around. I mean, to follow somebody or
Mhm.
something.
Follow your gut. No. So nice try. Nice try, but no. So get, let me give you a sentence and you tell me what it means. I think you'll understand it right away. I have to finish this book. I hope I can get around to it. Get around to it this weekend. Here, the concept of eventually exists, right? To eventually do something, to get around to it. It's you just haven't done something, but you will eventually do it. You will eventually do something or finish something. You will get around to it. Could you make a sentence for me, please?
it is time to get around, to clean your room.
So say it again. It's time.
It's time to get around to clean your room.
It's time to get around to clean your room. So here, great sentence, but I'll make it better. Okay, so I'll make it better by putting it like this. I'll say, you should get around to cleaning your room. That would be better. Why?
Let's
Because
try.
get around already has the element of eventually. Eventually means time. So that element already exists. So when you say it is time and get around to, you're using the same element twice. It's almost like you're repeating yourself. So you don't need to say it twice. Tariq.
I have had an example like my manager told me to get around with the weekly task.
My manager told me to get around.
With the weekly task.
So this one, first, I'm going to correct this. I've had an example. No, you want to say, I have an example. This is very, very important. You don't need present perfect here. It's present simple. I have an example. My manager told me to get around. It's get around to, right? So very important. Remember the to. So you want to
Yes.
say, my manager told me to get around to, we need a verb here again. You see over here, get around to, either I have a pronoun, right? Or cleaning, I have a verb over here. So I need not a verb, it's called a gerund. When we say a verb with an ing and we treat it like a subject, we call it a gerund. So we need a noun or a subject or a gerund, however you want to see it. My manager told me to get around to what? To
Completing the task.
completing, absolutely, the weekly task. Now it's good. Do you see the difference?
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Super, excellent. If I explain something and if you don't see what if you don't understand it, don't be shy to ask me to repeat, because I rather you understand it than I just continue on. So this is also very important to just recognize, okay, like this I've had. We don't want to say I've had. I have an example. My manager told me to get around to completing the weekly task. Excellent. Any more would get? What does this mean?
To cross a certain stage or something like that.
For example, you mean example?
Let's say I was suffering with some kind of depression, but I had get over it, or I had to get over it. Might be.
Excellent, excellent. I was suffering with depression, but I have here, you're using present perfect. You have to say got or gotten. They're both correct. Okay, so I have got over it. I have gotten over it. Okay, um, it means to cross a certain stage. It also means absolutely a great definition. It also means to recover, right? To move on from something that's just bad, right? Something that's down. It could be your health, like a
I
health
have a
problem, like I hope you get over your COVID. And then it could be something like mental problem, like depression or
ma'am. Why do we use phrasal verbs to define the phrasal verbs?
exactly. The question of the century, move on.
Move.
And that in itself is your answer. That is your answer to your question. That we use phrasal verbs so much that we need phrasal verbs to then define a phrasal verb, right? I mean, and we don't, and we, at least I, do it not even thinking about it. And that's the question of the century. Exactly. Like that is exactly how that's the answer to your question, that they're so common that we need a phrasal verb to define a phrasal verb. That's why it's so important to know more phrasal verbs. Um, you need to find phrasal verbs in your life, and by that, um, you need to do more listening. Listening is so magnificent. I cannot tell you how important it is. When you were little, your parents or your teacher, they always told you, paro, paro, paro. You have to read, you have to read, you have to read, right? And and that's great, of course, you have to, no doubt. But listening is so much more important. Like we need for language learning, we need to listen. Because when you listen to the right people, don't listen to just anyone on YouTube. Because I have a lot of people who tell me I was watching this on YouTube and this is how they were saying it. And then they show me the video and then I'm just sitting there going, how do I explain this to you? This is really bad. Like, don't listen to bad English. Listen to English spoken by someone who's really good at English. And the best thing is TED, like the TED Talks, and you can find them on YouTube. You can go on TED.com. They're excellent because you're guaranteed to know that whatever they're saying is going to be in perfect English. So you need to listen. You need to listen a lot of English. And then reading comes next. And then eventually you use it, right? So, you first have to listen and learn and then repeat and sound like them. And yeah, it's really, really important to find those phrasal verbs, to use those phrasal verbs and to recognize how they're being used. So like today we did a lot of phrasal verbs, right? Like we have 2 pages of phrasal verbs. Um, you should look at the ones that you found that didn't come to you very easily. If, like, for example, when I said bring up, there was no problem. Like Muhammad made a sentence right away. He brought up his kids in a very lavish environment. Okay, you don't need to learn that one. Cross it out. You already know it. Forget that one. But if there's one that, like, for example, get away with. Okay, get away with. This took me a little bit of time to understand. Do I understand? I don't know. Make sentences. Make sentences, send them to me, ask me to correct it. Keep doing it until you can naturally make a sentence that sounds very good to your own ears. And when you make it and you sound really good, that's it. You can move on and then get a different phrasal verb. I hope that helps you, and I hope that is helpful um, for today. We have one more workshop before, inshallah, Ramadan begins. So I really hope to see you guys then. I'm going to do it on structure, like how to have good structure. And then we're going to be meeting after Ramadan, inshallah, after Eid, I mean. And but we'll still be in the group. We'll still be active, inshallah, in the group, still communicating on there. But thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for attending the workshop. And inshallah, I will see you in the group and around.
Inshallah.
Yes,
Thank you.
we
Thank you
can
so
count
much.
on it.
Take care, both of you. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Salam, you too, ma'am. Take care. Thank you so much.
Bye.